Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about something I don't want to talk about, something I've been trying to avoid. I've been asked about it a couple times. The difference is I was asked by a teacher now. So, we're going to talk about armed teachers in schools. Is it a solution? No. No. It's a band aid on a bullet wound at best. Will it help? Maybe. If it's done right. Is it going to be done right? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You guys have trouble getting money for pencils, paper, textbooks from this century. You know, things you actually need to do your job. I'm very hard pressed to believe that the school board is going to give you an ammo budget. And to do what you're talking about, you got to be better trained than the average cop. A lot better trained. And that's not to say, well, no, it is to say cops don't get good training. But you can't train to that level. You got to train to the level of an HRT, a hostage rescue team. Because you're going to be in a more intense situation than the cops are when they arrive. What happens? Somebody starts shooting. Cops get notified. Takes them time to drive there. Eventually they make entry. During that lag, things stabilize. Kids find cover. School, what can get locked down, gets locked down. Kids evacuate. Maybe the shooter runs out of ammo or pops himself. Things happen. You don't get that luxury. As a teacher, you don't get that. When the shooting starts, you're there. So when you step out in that hallway, it's not empty. There's kids running around, panicked. You can't miss, period. You cannot miss, because if you do, you're hitting another student. You can't miss. So you've got to get good, real good, at putting the bullets where you want them. And then once you get to that point, you got to figure out how to do that while you're moving, while kids are running in front of you. You have to change your entire mindset. When you're walking through the hallway, you're not a teacher anymore, you're a warrior. You're not worried about the students, thinking about them and your class. You're wondering if that nook over there is going to make good cover. You have to change everything. You have to get very good. You have to train, and you have to do it all in secret. You can't tell anybody. The second a student finds out, you're done. It's over. Any effectiveness you had is now gone. Contrary to popular belief, the idea of an armed teacher isn't going to be a deterrent. There's already cops in schools. There's already armed people at schools. It's not a deterrent. Students find out you got a gun and there is a school shooting, you're just number one on the kill list. So no. It's not practical. It is not practical. The amount of ammo it's going to take to get you where you need to be to engage in a close quarters battle in a crowded hallway is insane. And that's expensive. It is expensive. You want to make it workable? Okay. Can't leave your class. You can't leave your class. School shooting starts, you lock down your class, you save those 30 lives. Everybody else is on their own. The reality. Because you can't go engage him. You got to wait for him to come to you. If you're in one of those schools that's built like a prison, you know, with the wings that can get locked down, maybe you can lock that down successfully and protect those students. Maybe. Problem is, even in that scenario, schools are meant to be inviting. Your classroom's inviting. Schools are inviting. There's a lot of open space. You know what there's not a lot of? Cover. There's not a lot of things to hide behind. You can't engage them by standing there in the open. You'll die. You will die. They have the initiative. The shooter has the initiative. You can't just stand in the hallway. So you got to make cover. You have to make cover. And you got to make something that can sit in your classroom and the students not know what it is. Because the second they know, it's over. Filing cabinet. You're going to take a filing cabinet, you're going to put wheels on it. By the time you're done with the wheels, it needs to be just high enough for you to peek over. You're going to fill that filing cabinet. You're going to put armor, well, no, putting plates in the back of it. That's going to run $1,000. I'm assuming as a teacher that's not in your budget, although apparently now for your pay, we're also expecting you to, jeez. Call up your local metal manufacturer, your local metal fabricator, a welder. Can't tell him what you're really doing though, because you can't tell anybody. He may have a kid who he tells, so you can't tell him. Tell him you're going to build a range. So you need steel plates, and you're going to give him the measurements from the inside of that filing cabinet. You need steel plates that you can ring a 308 off of. Write it down. 308, it's about the most powerful thing you can realistically expect to run into in this kind of situation. So you're going to get those plates cut, and then you're going to stick them in the back of that filing cabinet. Can't do that, you're going to get textbooks, phone books, and fill it. Standing vertically, not sideways, just laying in there. Standing up vertically, you're going to fill it. So you've got mobile cover. Put that in your classroom, and if you're in one of those schools that you can successfully lock down that hallway, you're going to put one near the entry to that hallway, whether it be another classroom or a closet, whatever. So you have something that will stop a bullet that you can be behind. Otherwise, this is all a moot point. Most schools are concrete. You're going to want to put frangible ammo in your weapon. It's a special type of ammo that when it hits the wall, it breaks up. Lowers the risk of ricochet and hitting one of those kids that's panicked in the hallway. You need to watch that video, Buying a Gun for Political Violence. Watch that, become familiar with the concepts in that, and do a realistic evaluation of whether or not you are really going to be able to put the brains of one of your students on the ground. Because that's what it's going to take. Good news is that psychology is working in your favor for a change. When you're talking about cops, people that have to make entry, they have to set aside their instinct for self-preservation. You don't have to do that. You're already at risk, so you have to fight. You're more likely to get the fight side of that fight or flight response. So that'll help. Then the other thing you got to figure out is how you're going to avoid getting killed when the cops finally do make entry. They don't know what's going on. They just see somebody with a gun. Can't tell them. Nobody gets to know. Nobody. The second one student finds out, all of them know. And then if a school shooting happens in your school, it's going to start in your classroom. And you're going to be the first target. Because you're a threat. Nobody can know. So, no, it's not a solution. It is not a solution. For this to be a solution, the amount of training and money that it would take is ridiculous. You'd have to engage in psychological warfare against the students as well. Having the principal announce fake messages about, oh, it's range day, teachers, and make it seem like everybody's got a gun. Not really a place I'd want to send my kid, to be honest. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not. I'm not. In fact, I feel more comfortable with the idea of you doing it than people who think it's a good idea. Because at least you understand that you are so far from the level of training you need to do this that maybe you'll take it seriously. You're talking about close quarters combat in incredibly difficult scenarios. Hallway, yeah, that's, ask any vet, ask anybody who's ever been in a gunfight. Where do you not want to be? Somewhere where you can only move towards the target or away from it. That's, you don't want to be there because there's nothing. When you lean up against the lockers, there's no cover. There's nothing to hide behind. Maybe it'll help. It's not a solution, but maybe it is that Band-Aid on a bullet wound until someone comes up. But what you have to do is you have to weigh the risk of a school shooting versus the likelihood of you losing control of that weapon in that classroom. The likelihood of a student seeing it, because none of them ever can, ever. If it works, it's because you made it work. It's going to be up to you, you alone, as an individual, as a teacher, as an educator. You have to become the expert in combat, because the school board's policy is going to be horrible. I can tell you that now. They're going to get some police advisor who doesn't know what they're doing, probably from the local sheriff's office. Maybe he's from their SRT, from the sheriff's response team. Maybe he's part of that. But even then, their training is on a static scenario. Their training isn't 10 seconds after the shooting. Their training is after it's stabilized. They're not expecting kids running in the hallways. They're going to be more concerned about liability than effectiveness. And when you're talking about combat, liability is just part of it. Liability and effectiveness don't go hand in hand. This is America today. This is America today. Teachers need mobile cover and need to learn how to engage in close quarters combat. It's fantastic. This is the world we're in. Anyway, we probably need to look at other solutions and other concepts and maybe set better examples than this. This isn't going to solve the problem. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.